In this presentation, we will take a look at the Employees section, the Employees icons, the Employees cycle within QuickBooks Online. As we go through QuickBooks Online, we will make the comparison to the QuickBooks desktop version for a couple reasons. One is that we want to be able to compare that so that users of the desktop version can make that conversion to the online version, and two, because the desktop version does have that flow chart on the home page, making it a little bit easier to see the process or the flow of the icons that will be used. Online version having more of a drop-down format, which is good, works great. Once we know the process and how the connection works, then we no longer really need the flow chart, but it's nice to see at the beginning. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. Remember that we are using the QuickBooks Online test drive. You can Google that and find that, and we will be working then in the Craig's Design and Landscaping Services as we navigate around. We are now looking at the employees, so we can see that if we go up to the drop down, this little plus changes to an X. We're looking at this section, the employees section. We're going to close that back out. We also have on the left side where we have the hamburger here. If we can close the hamburger, we can open the hamburger back up. We're going down to the workers. Within the workers section, this is another area where we can see the input related to the employees, having two tabs, the employee tab and the contractor tab. Going to go back up top to the dashboard at this time. We're going to then go to the desktop version just to take a look at the flow chart and see how the system will work, and then find those same icons over here in the online version. So if we go to the desktop version, again, this isn't the online version, but it is QuickBooks, and it'll give us a use of the icon that we can then apply over. We can see the flow here on the employees section. So the employees section down below, we have the standard flow that would be, we're going to pay the employees, and then we're going to pay payroll liabilities. So in other words, typically what will happen is we're going to have to set up payroll, which is a big process in and of itself. That's going to be one of the most difficult things to do around payroll. Once it's set up, however, then we can just process the paychecks by selecting the Pay Employees item. This icon will process the payroll. We'll go in here now because the desktop version has a nice manual setup, a manual setup that's great for practice. The online version doesn't have that manual setup typically, and we have to actually pay for some type of payroll setup, and there's different types of payroll setups to look at. So let's go in here now and just see what it looks like on the desktop version. This is the manual setup on the desktop version, just to get an idea. We're going to go into the payroll. And once we're set up in payroll, once we have our employees here, we have the two employees, then we can just process through the payroll. This will be similar for the online version as well. Just note there's different tiers for the payroll on how much you're going to pay for with the payroll, how much service we're going to get. And we will talk about that more as we go through the setup process within the system. But once we set up our employees, we can go in here and just pay them and actually print out the net check. So we're going to have the pay periods. We're going to have the check date. It's going to come out of the checking account typically in this item. And then we can see what happens with our employees. If we were to select an employee, we can see the detail that will typically be included. That being, in this case, a salaried employee. Here's the salaried employee. Anything that was taken out of the salaried employee, we can then remove here and get to the net check. So we would have federal income tax. Let's say we had federal income tax here, and then Social Security. We have Social Security tax would be whatever the Social Security tax is. And then that would give us the net check down below. That's what the net check would be processed. So the actual journal entry related to the payroll is complex because we have to deal with those withholdings, and we have to deal with the payroll taxes for the employer side. We'll discuss all that as we start to enter data through the problem. So we're going to close this back out, and we'll close this back out. Once we do that, then we would pay the liabilities. In other words, we would have withheld at least the employee and employer taxes. So we withheld the employee payroll taxes, Social Security, Medicare, federal income tax, and we have to pay the employer taxes of Social Security and Medicare. And the pay liabilities would then allow us to pay that. So in other words, when we pay the employees, we're going to pay the net check. we're going to withhold withholdings, and we're also going to generate the liabilities on the employer taxes, and that will create a check. Obviously, also it'll create the liabilities related to the payroll tax liabilities that we haven't paid: federal income tax, Social Security, Medicare. Then we'll pay those off, meaning cash will go down and the other side will be decreasing the payroll liabilities. So let's go into online now and just take a look at those same kind of icons now that we have a visualization of the flow chart. So if we select the plus up top, we're going to go up to the plus up top, and then we see the employees, and we basically have the main icon here, which is going to be to pay the employees. Now, of course, we can't process the payroll in this setup because this is going to be the demo version, but that's where we would go to do that. We would, again, have different levels of payroll depending on what we purchased in payroll. Payroll will be an added purchase that we will need to do. If we go to the left side to the Workers tab on the left, we're going to see the two tabs up top, which will be the Employees and Contractors. Here's going to be our employees. If we edit the employees, we're going to have the setup process for the editing of the employees, the data, the information in here. I am now in a QuickBooks Online file that's going to be the file that we will use to work through the problem so that we can see some of the options for payroll. So within here, I'm going to go to the Workers tab. We'll see here that we haven't had any payroll set up yet at this point. In other words, we set up this QuickBooks file, the QuickBooks Online file, haven't entered any payroll at this time. If we were to go here and say Get Started with the Payroll, we will then see the payroll options that we could purchase. So it's going to be an added item. We have QuickBooks, and then we'd have to add to it the payroll. We've got the two options at this time: QuickBooks Enhanced Payroll, QuickBooks Full Service Payroll. If we scroll down, you can see some of the options related to it. The advantage of the full service is that QuickBooks will have the support to help get things set up and help process the forms, including the quarterly 941s, the yearly 940, and the W-2s. We'll talk more about payroll as we go through the data entry process. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.